My name's Jack. My company did $66,855 of revenue and $27,301 of net profit in the month of February. And I'm the CEO and founder of Puck Pro Media. We do hockey video services. It's a hockey media company, so we do videography, video editing, promotional media services, primarily for players that are looking to get recruited. So I come on here, talk about what I'm learning, and this is my February recap of everything that kind of went into a record month. So yeah, let's get into it. Why don't we? So the way this video is going to be broken down is going to be tangible things, like what actually happened that we can measure, like what are the measurable changes in the business. Then it's going to be non-tangible, more like emotional mindset type of things that occurred, like either within my inner psychology or just like less measurable things, because not everything in business is measurable. After that, we're going to talk about what were the goals and lessons that I learned like last month in January and how did that kind of translate over to February. And then finally, we're going to talk about what I learned in February and how that translates hopefully to March this month, kind of like my goals there. So let's get into tangible. So the first thing tangible that happened is I hired an appointment setter. As someone who has been terrified of delegating for super long, I still have not let go of customer communication. I still literally talk to all of our customers. Letting go of sales was kind of like a first step into that. And it's not even that I'm letting go of sales. I'm letting go of the first initial contact with the lead. These people are coming in cold. We have a profitable meta ad system. We're getting tons of leads. And I knew that while I was away, I gave no context for this, but a big part that contributed to last month's revenue is the Pee Wee Quebec tournament, which we spent 2 weeks at. So I was in another country and I had less free time to be able to work the leads. So it kind of worked out perfectly that this kid Dylan, who, by the way, I've been trying to get to work with me for like a while now. Like, this is a smart kid. He doesn't even know. I've been trying to get him for so long. And it just worked out where he has some appointment setting experience. He was like asking if there was anything I can give him that he'd be able to work on. And I was like, let's give it a try. Why not? So I took a day, did some research into like what is an appointment setter supposed to do. I wrote up an SOP and we got going. And honestly, it was a lot easier to let go of than I thought. Like, it was almost like a spur of the moment intuition decision. It was like, I trust Dylan. Dylan has a background in hockey. I used to play with him. He's a former teammate of mine. So he knows hockey. He knows sales generally. He doesn't know the most about the business yet, but I just wrote down, all right, here's everything important you need to know about the business. You're literally just going to be calling these people, and whatever you can't answer, you just have them book a call with me and I'll answer it. So there's a few reasons why that's important and huge. First off, I have someone that's like marketing and selling the business without me doing it. Like, he's driving revenue without me, which is crazy. Like, I could just take a day of not working leads if I felt like it, and he's contacting them. If I sleep in a bit, he's contacting them. Not that I do that, but it's crazy. It's crazy because I felt like I was so far off from letting go of like how the hell am I supposed to hire a salesperson? Because honestly, I have no formal sales process. I know my business better than anyone, and I'm able to translate that in a relatively well-communicated manner to be able to close people. I don't have any formal sales skills. I'm not like a closer, but like I know how to communicate the value we provide very well, and that helps me sell people. So having Dylan being the first initial contact has actually it's forced us to build a sales process. It has forced me to put together SOPs that I've been avoiding. It's forced me to follow an actual cadence that is now scalable, because one of the things I really want to do in 2026 is like build a real team, like have a real team outside of just like, of course we have like 10 different videographer contractors and editors. We've got a big editing team, which is another one of the tangible things that happened. But we don't really have a sales team. And I'm like, I think if we grow this business to the level that I want to grow this business to, we're gonna need a sales team by the end of the year, like legit setting and closing team. And the sales process was very flim-flam. It was just, we'd have a Facebook lead come in. I have a general cadence that I already had built out where, call them, text them, email them, call them, text them, like a 7-day sequence to get in touch with the people. And that was working well. So I really just had to hand that off to him. And there was no like clear sales process that people went through where, okay, you talk to this guy, then you get on the phone. And honestly, that was hurting our close rates. Like, there was a point in October, November, where sales was legitimately our constraint. We were getting cheap meta ads, but we were converting like 5% of them. And that was the bottleneck. I realized, like, we're getting enough leads, we're not selling enough of them. And with the fact that Dylan is now appointment setting, they're just like layups. Like, I'm like closing all these sales, which is great because it's forcing a real process. he's getting people on the phone. And obviously the phone is the best selling environment. I was very flexible. I was trying to sell people through DMs. People can ghost you so easily. And sure, you can follow up call them. You want to get them on the phone with a clear structured objective. They're qualified. They know what they're getting into. And then you sell them. And that is working really well. There's still obviously some kinks that we have to work out there. He doesn't know everything yet, but we're getting to a point where it's starting to get really efficient. Like from what's working, it's working well. There are parts of it that aren't working, but we're figuring out as we go. And I'm really glad that I took that leap of faith. So that was like huge for me because, like I said, I communicate with all of our customers. So what's the easiest thing I can get off my plate right away? Well, it's leads, because they're coming in relatively cold. They have no preconceived notion of our business. Of course, if you're running organic and paid ads, they probably know you already, a lot of them. And I think those are the people that we're closing for the most part. But cold traffic, it's like, he can fuck up on cold traffic. That's fine. I'm like, I'd rather him, if he's going to learn on anyone, it should be the leads that we're generating for Meta, because they have no opinion, right? So let him learn on them rather than handing off customer communication, God forbid. So this was a good stepping stone. It was really big. Let me see if I had any other notes on that. Yeah, like it's just honestly like the big thing is like we're actually starting to build a real sales process, which is super exciting because we did not have anything structured now, and it's forcing me to build something that's scalable, which is good. And scalability creates, or like systems rather, I would say, create not only scalability, but predictability. It's like, okay, we know that this many leads come in, this many leads we get in contact with, this many leads book a call, this many leads show for a call, this many leads close. Like that's the equation I've been trying to generate for so long. And I'm gonna touch on that because that's kind of like my big March goal. But we're kind of getting going. So that's a big step. So that's tangible thing number one. We hired an appointment setter, and that's super exciting. Tangible number two. Obviously, we hit a record revenue and profit month. And what this really reinforced to me is the importance of high ticket. Like selling expensive shit, dude. This Canada tournament honestly generated most of our revenue for the month, which has me a little scared because I obviously, like, when you hit a new goal, that becomes your baseline now. You gotta hit that next month. Month over month revenue growth. That was something I really stressed in my 2025 lessons video and what I wanted to carry into 2026. And the reason we were able to sell so much, we had, I think, maybe like 15 unique customers. Maybe 20. It wasn't anything crazy. But we were selling like multiple $1,000 packages. And the real lesson here, like I don't really have any other lesson besides the fact that like as long as you can generate a consumer surplus, and by consumer surplus, I mean the discrepancy between price and value, whatever that value is in their head, we were selling things that are like $4,500. Like I think that was our top package we had for the tournament. We sold that to 4 people. $4,500 is not cheap for consumer. Like that's high ticket for consumer. And the lowest was like 800, something like that, that's like a little bit above what would be considered an impulse purchase by most standards. So yeah, you can, like, selling expensive stuff, that makes the biggest difference. It's way easier to sell less people an expensive thing than it is to sell more people on some cheap stuff. And I'm constantly like, I get a little ballsier every month, every year. Get a little ballsier about like, what can I actually charge for what we're doing here? And how can I communicate in a way where it's like reasonable? And yeah, not much to talk about here, but the reason we hit that record revenue and profit, I made a lot, like 27 grand profit. Like that's pretty healthy margins. What is that? It's like, I think between like 35 to 40%, I want to say, because 50% would be 33. So for a service-based business, dude, that's pretty fucking healthy. I'm not gonna lie. So that's lesson number 2, sell expensive stuff. Or tangible thing number 2. We hit the revenue growth, and the lesson I'm taking away from that is to sell expensive stuff. We following? After that, we grew a reliable editing team, or a more reliable editing team. And honestly, we're actually still bottlenecked by editing right now. So there was a while we were bottlenecked by videography. That's not really the case anymore because the season's kind of done. So a ton of people have footage already. They just need us to edit it. And scaling the editing is something that's kind of tricky because we have the work to hire a full-time editor. We have enough. But yet, all of our editors are contract workers. They're not full-time. They're each making, I have like 8 editors. I think I paid out a total of maybe like, I think $8,000 to $10,000 worth of editing payroll throughout the month. And the highest paid editor, I think, made like $2,000, which is a bit of a problem because I would rather consolidate that to where I can give 2 or 3 people full-time work. But the issue I'm kind of running into with that is we have to balance the turnaround time with the amount of editors we have, right? So if I can have 8 people and they can crank things out within a day or 2 days, that's better than having 4 people and they're taking 3 to 4 or 5 to 6. Because when I was doing this all myself, our turnaround time was ridiculous. I would shoot a game, I would come home, I would edit the game. We were blowing people away. That has fallen off. That's one thing I'm kind of frustrated with, is our turnaround time has gotten worse, and I really want to try to get very tactical on how production is set up in a way where we can continue to blow people away with turnaround time. Because honestly, this industry, one of the problems with the creative industry is people are so slow. There's no urgency. It's just known to be a slow industry, and I don't like slow. One of our core values is we move fast. So I'm really trying to learn how to scale an editing team. We went from 3 to 8 editors this past month. 8 different people we're working with now, which is great. That's exciting. I just now have to figure out how I can get them as efficient as possible, which I'm reading currently. It's fun how you can, get a book and read it, and you don't realize when you're reading the book, you're not even in the situation to apply the book. A year later, I'm coming back to this book, and it's actually very applicable to this editing situation, which is High Output Management by Andrew Grove, who is the former CEO of Intel. And the way he talks about the production line and limiting factors and things like that, I'm trying to find a way to get our editing team full-time, because now we have someone else who's coming on who is interested in doing full-time editing work. So, yes, we grew the editing team. Yes, it's still bottlenecked. Yes, it's something I'm working on. So there's not really a lesson there, but actually, I can turn a lesson into this. I can say the lesson is capacity. Capacity is huge, especially in our industry where people need recruiting videos and they need to send it out to a school by the end of the week. You need to have that's going to be the difference between someone who goes with a solopreneur, which a lot of our industry is solopreneurs, just single people who are freelancers, and that takes up most of it. So we're one of the few production companies actually in our space. So what would be the defining factor between going to someone else and going here? It's can we take them on and can we turn the thing around in the right amount of time? So a little anecdote here. When we were in Quebec, we went to this restaurant called La Bouche. Great food, right? We went the previous year as well. So we go back to this place and we get there and the guy's like, oh, you gotta wait. There's a line. And at first we're like, oh, damn. So we start walking. We're like, are we going to find better food in this place? No. So we go back to the line. The line takes 3 minutes and then we're seated in 3 minutes, right? Then we get seated. The waiter's right there within maybe a minute, okay? Then we place our order. We get our food within 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes, 100%. And what that really reinforced me was okay, this place is full. I'm looking around, this place is full. We had to wait a little bit, but they have to have calculated that if we have this many people working in the kitchen, we can turn around food in this amount of time. These people will get their food quicker, which means they'll leave quicker, which means we can constantly have full capacity with a small, reasonable wait list, which is peak. Think about supply and demand. Think about customer satisfaction, just the sense of speed. It was just such a great visual enforcement. I'm sitting in this restaurant, I'm seeing how full it is, and we were in and out in less than an hour because of the way they set up that business. So we had to wait, but then when we got in, after a few minutes wait, in and out in half an hour. So that was kind of a good takeaway from that, is capacity is honestly one of the biggest ways you can stand out in business. And if you can kind of perfect that demand to capacity ratio, that's really something you should strive for. So those are the tangible things that happen in our business. We hit a record revenue and profit month. We hired an appointment setter, and we grew our editing team by a few people. Let's talk about less tangible things, right? So this is kind of wishy-washy, especially as someone who values almost my entire life on how productive I am. One of the things that I kind of wrote down in my 2026 plans, goals, my little reflection of the year, is I wanted to spend more time with the intention of having fun. Okay? I absolutely love working. I have fun working, but my intention of work is not to have fun. My intention of work is to produce a result. And I almost feel guilty because you see all these successful people and they reflect and they're like, you know, the work was worth it, but you don't get enjoyment from the results. It's more about enjoying the work, enjoying like your day-to-day life. Like that's the big thing. And I almost feel like gross about it because I haven't achieved anything enough where it's like I feel okay about, you know, like reflecting on the same thing that like billionaires are reflecting on because they obviously did it all and they're there and now they're saying, right? But I did want to make like a small point, whether it's just like once a month or something like that, to like spend time with the intention of having fun. So like there was one day, Sunday afternoon, at the beginning of the month where I just went and it was cold outside and I love hockey, right? And obviously I've played hockey my whole life. That's why I started this business. And I went and just played pond hockey with my friends for like 3 hours. Did I have work to do? Yeah. But I took 3 hours on my day to go play pond hockey. And sometimes like that's one of the most productive things you can do is like freeing up your brain, separating yourself from the work, and you come back to the work fresher. Obviously I'm not spending any insane amount of time having fun, but a couple times a month, there's nothing wrong with that. So I did that, and then I went to a Flyers game with my buddy, and then when we were in the city in Canada, we took like a couple hours of a few of the days where we just went and walked around the town. And yeah, that was something that I'm kind of proud of myself for doing because normally I'm a spaz. I'm always thinking like, all right, well, I should have to be doing something right now, which like, it's a good thing to have, but it's also good to occasionally take some time to enjoy yourself because what's the point in all this if you're not enjoying yourself along the way? So that was something I did that was kind of cool. Yeah, dude. All right, this was a crazy moment. So I kind of actually like, it's hard. I really struggle with being present because I'm working my ass off every single day, right? And I'm so focused on the next thing, like what needs to get done today, and then what needs to get done tomorrow, and then how are we going to achieve the things that we're trying to do this year, 5 years, this month, this quarter, etc. So I never really like recognize like what we're actually doing. I never get excited about like, look at how far we've come, because I think that's like, I hate even talking about this stuff because it feels wishy-washy, it feels corny, it feels like you shouldn't really take pleasure in things when you're striving for more. But there was a point where we had 4 people with us in Canada, right? There was a point where this was like it was like the most like startup environment ever. I loved it. We had this round table. We were all just working on our computers all the time. The whole time we were there, it was so much fun. I was like, I love this fucking energy, bro. It's like everyone's working. It was like a competition of who went to sleep last. And I was sitting there, and I was typing on my computer, and I like look over at the one guy, and he's wearing a hoodie with Puck Pro Media on it with my logo. And then I look at my computer, and I'm looking at like our pipeline or like our schedule or something like that, and I see the other guy. He's like talking with the other guy about like how they can do this one thing better. And at that moment, I realized that like this company has become bigger than me. I don't even know how to explain the feeling I felt, but it was like euphoria. It was like an out-of-body, out-of-mind experience that I had where I was like, I was just like, Puck Pro Media. That's just what like hit my brain. It was just like Puck Pro Media. I like tangibly like felt our company, like not with my hands, not with my brain, like just like my soul almost. That sounds so fucking corny, bro. But I was just like, whoa. Like I have people bought into my mission. And that just like, there's so much responsibility that comes with that. And it was such an interesting feeling, but it was like a rewarding feeling. It was like, not even like a dopamine spike. It was just, I don't know how to explain the feeling I had. But I just kind of came to the realization of like what I was actually building, like what I was a part of in that real time. Like I was fully present, fully conscious. And that's the best way I can explain it. So that was a really cool feeling. Yeah. And then the third thing from this month that is more like less tangible, more mindset, but kind of actually like tactical, I would say, is the way I've started tracking my productivity, my time. So if you've been following along this channel, one of my first videos was like how I log my time, right? I legit, for years, I can tell you how many hours I worked today of last year and the year before that, 100%. I could go pull it up in my Google Sheet and tell you. Because for years I've been tracking what I do with my time. It's how I keep myself accountable. Because if you're conscious of what you're doing, it's really hard to start doing stupid shit. It's really hard to start scrolling on your phone, etc. So I have countless notebooks where I just write down, okay, here's the exact time it is, here's what I'm doing, and then I go to the next block, and then when I stop doing that, I do another thing. I've been doing that for forever. And recently, I was kind of just looking over like the amount of time I was spending on working. I'm like, this is flawed, because I'm only tracking like the hours I'm working, which is, I guess, nice for your ego. But then I'm like, I'm not working as much as I feel like working. So like, what's the other things I'm spending my time on? And I also earlier this month got really into like the old Sam Ovens content. If you don't know Sam Ovens, he's the co-founder of School. He's the he had consulting.com, whatever. Real smart guy, successful entrepreneur. And he talks so much about how productivity is all about elimination, right? So I took a week, and instead of tracking just my work, I tracked 15-minute blocks, and I would just write down, what is it that I spent my time doing in these 15-minute blocks? And after the week was over, I looked back, I reflected, and I came to the realization there were two things that kind of like stuck out like a sore thumb. The one was that pretty much every 15-minute block, I was either answering a text from a customer or an employee. Like every single one, which is kind of a problem, because that means I'm not getting into deep focus work. Like if you're constantly responding, reacting, like that's a bad place to be as a CEO. So that was one thing. The other thing was there was like far too much just like, oh, I went on my phone. Oh, I got caught on Instagram. Oh, I did this, I did that, whatever. So at the end of that week, what I did was, the management and customer thing's kind of tricky. So what I did was I blocked out certain times to be able to do that, which is smart. And then, all right, if I'm working on something, you're not going to get an answer for that time, which is a shame, but it's what has to happen. And for the screen time thing, I no longer run our social medias. So what the fuck do I have to be on Instagram for? There's no reason I have to be on Instagram. So I was like, all right, 5-minute time limit on Instagram. I set the little locks on my phone. TikTok, the only thing I do on TikTok, besides scroll, which is useless, is I post personal brand content. So I limited that to 5 minutes a day, because, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes to pop on, film a video, and that's like all I should really be on TikTok for. Snapchat, same thing. I should delete Snapchat, to be honest. The only reason I have it is my memories. They're like funny. So I keep that. But I just limited all those, because Messenger and Meta Business Suite, like I can answer DMs on Meta Business Suite, and trust me, that is far less dopamine inducing than going on Instagram. So I essentially have the same functionality without all of the possibility of scrolling and getting lost. So after doing that, like my screen time is reduced significantly, like by like multiple hours per day, which is huge, because it's like a forcing function. Everything about productivity is like adding friction on the things that you don't want to do. Like make it hard to do the things that you don't want to do. Make it easy to do the things that you do want to do that push you towards your goals. So the screen time thing was big for me, and it was pretty helpful. So that's that, right? So going through the video, I'm not even going to recap. You guys can watch it yourself, all right? So let's talk about the different February goals that I set and like how that actually translated into reality. So one of the things I said for February was like financial organization, right? Like via QuickBooks and just keeping invoicing and payroll and all that stuff super organized. We did not achieve that in February, to be honest. Like I didn't set aside the time to properly do that. And I kind of had someone who was supposed to own that function and they didn't really. So I'm a little bit upset there. And I don't think that we're going to move forward with that person, just because I'm not really getting, I think, what I'm paying for. And if I have to spend 2 days at the end of the month doing our account, which I literally did, it took me like a day and a half of work to do our accounting this month, just due to the sheer amount of volume of transactions, because it was a bigger month, on a Google sheet, right? It's like, fuck that. So we didn't really do that. So that's frustrating. We set out that goal to have like, invoicing automated, payroll automated, not have to worry about it. It all just goes into QuickBooks. We're still not QuickBooks organized, quite frankly. So that's something I set out to do in the month, and I didn't do it. I guess I didn't actively make it a priority, but I kind of thought someone else was going to be handling that. So I guess, I have to have a conversation with that other person. The other thing I wanted to do was make sure that the business not only sustained but grew while we were in Canada, which I think we actually achieved well, because I did bring on the appointment setter. Like one of the things I wrote down was like, maybe I need to hire an appointment setter while we're gone to make sure we can continue to run ads and continue to generate new leads while we're working at this big tournament. So we did that. That was big. That's exciting. That's huge. We definitely didn't do that last year, and there definitely has actually never been a time in our business where we've been able to sustain lead generation while I'm not fully focused on it. So that's a huge win. Honestly, I think that makes up for just about everything else. The other thing I wanted to do was spend more time on like customer experience and our product. I think as the CEO, that's your job, to make sure your thing, that whatever your thing is that you sell, is constantly getting better. I didn't spend as much time on that as I would like to. I didn't really free up the time to be able to like look into our customer experience. I did like some very basic brainstorming and things we can implement at the beginning of the month, and that not really much came of that outside of the regular customer communication, which like I already practiced, but I was reinforced throughout the month how just staying in touch with your customers is the easiest way to make money. The easiest sale you'll ever make is a sale you already made. So if you spend time one day a month, you go back through your entire profit statement, customer list, however you track the people you're working with, and you just hit them up. You say like, hey, how's it going? Hey, check it in, it's the end of the season, hope you're doing well. The amount of bookings that come from that, it's stupid easy. It's stupid easy. Like, you'll get into a conversation and then you start to see like that month and the month after, the downstream effect. It's like all those people start booking again, just magically out of nowhere. Just kidding, it's not magically out of nowhere. It's because you reached out to them. You took the time to do that. So that was reinforced. I didn't spend as much time with it as I would like to, but I still got, I probably did like the 80-20 of that, which is staying in touch with your customers, and that generated revenue, which is exciting. The other thing was determine a clear path for growth from the off season. Okay, so if you guys watched my last video, I talked about how with the season slowing down, our business changes a bit because people are much more apt. All right, my camera's bugging out. Hello, you there? Okay. That's a good sign to take a quick water break, because I don't know why I was doing that. All right, back to business. I'm not cutting that out either. I'm posting this whole thing unedited. Our business changes a bit in the months of March to August because it's not the regular season for hockey. Our target audience, our best customers, are individual players or parents of individual players that hire us. They typically need footage. Like, people will literally pay us to film every single one of their kids' games. Like, those are our best customers, the people that have us come out to focus on their kid. And those people happen to be a little bit less apt to do that in the off season because they're just tournaments and stuff like that. It's not really as high stakes as the regular season. It's less predictable of a schedule, and it kind of changes a bit. We can't, at least I thought, okay, we couldn't necessarily run the same B2C play where it's generate meta ads, convert those meta leads, and, you know, they enter our ecosystem. So I'm like, okay, like, what are the long-term consequences? Like, we have a couple different avatars we can go after here. One of them is tournaments. One of them is leagues/organizations, like getting in with rinks, getting partnerships there. One is like hockey trainers, like people who host camps during the summer. They need media. And I caught myself literally just over this weekend starting to be like, oh, tournaments. We put all of our attention into tournaments. Well, is that helpful? Yes. But what tournaments really do is they serve as an acquisition channel. They serve as a distribution platform. They're essentially like our own advertising. If we get in with tournaments, we then get access to the entire database of players that are in that tournament. Well, not necessarily, but we get eyeballs from the tournament. So it's like our target audience doesn't really change. It's still the individual players. And if we look at what we did at Pee Wee Quebec, that's the tournament I'm talking about, the big one, we weren't working with the tournaments directly. We were working with the players and the families and the teams from the tournament. So I started like building out this whole sales process of how we're going to sell tournaments to be able to, get access and sell to their customers directly. And we're still working on that. But I'm thinking like, no. I circled back to the video cut off. I have no clue what happened. Pretty much all I was saying, which ties into the end of this video anyway, because I don't have a ton of time right now to finish this up, is that we are continuing down the same game plan of just doing B2C, not necessarily focusing on the tournaments, because there's still money to be made in the off season with consumers without changing our sales process. When I think through what's going to be harder, is cracking a new acquisition channel harder than dealing with less efficient marketing? No, not necessarily, because when I think about the snowball that's going to occur by continuing the B2C ads sales processes, scaling our meta leads, getting a more dialed in system for demand generation, and learning how to convert those people properly over time. Like that flows directly into the season, and we'll already have momentum going into that. So instead of trying to sell tournaments, we're just going to we're going to use tournaments as an avenue to get to the players, but we're going to continue to just keep the same demand generation system going. And like I said, it's 80-20. It's like we'll spend most of our time, doing the Facebook ads, scaling the sales process, working the leads, and I'm going to accept the fact that it's going to be a little bit less efficient over the off season just due to the nature of seasonality. Like, that's a very real thing in business. Businesses have seasonality. And last year, the mistake I made was I tried to change the whole business in the slow months. And I was real close to almost making that same mistake again. And then I was just like, focus. I have it right in front of me. I have a list of 3 important, core execution principles for 2026. One of them is less ideas, more execution. And we already have something that works. So let's just keep putting the pedal to the gas, make it work better, more better, and then new. We don't need to do that yet. We don't need to do the new part yet. So all I was saying, I'm really frustrated because I had 5 more minutes of that video, but all I was saying was that we are going to continue down the same path. We're going to try to crack and scale our B2C that's already working, and we're going to try to find ways to tailor those ads that work in the off season. I've already thought of more since I recorded that video. So that not only wraps up the January to February lesson of okay, we understand what we're going to do now moving forward and how we're going to continue to scale the business in these slower months. But it also is what I wanted to talk about for our March game plan. That's really all I'm focused on is, if we have the appointment setting flow working where Dylan's booking us 5 to 10 qualified calls per day, I'll probably close 2 to 4 of them at around 500 a piece. That's 1 to 2K per day. If we're hitting that 2K per day, we're hitting that 60K per month. And ideally, to keep up with our quarterly goals, we have to do 85 this month. I don't think I'm realistic with myself. That's not going to happen. I don't think we're going to do 85 this month. Can we do 60? I think we can do 60. I think we can do 60 if we really buckle down and get this going now. But listen, we're learning. We're trying to adapt to a scenario that's not exactly the same as previous, because it used to just be, all right, someone just called me, so that's frustrating. Right in the middle of my thought. I think I'm lost. I think the video is done. Okay? You guys get the point. It was a record revenue month. We hired an appointment setter. We grew our editing team. And then I had a cool presence, euphoric moment, realizing what I was actually building. Let's go, Puck Pro Media. That was a lot of fun. I spent a little bit more time trying to have fun, which I don't think that's gonna be a priority in March, but it was nice. It was nice while it happened. We'll keep up with that. What else? New productivity system. I'm tracking that time right now. That was cool. And then how our January goals translated to February goals. We spent a lot of time. Whatever. You guys watched the video. If you made it this far, you watched the video. I'm done summarizing. And quite frankly, I'm fed up with the fact that this is the 5th time I had to record this video. But I appreciate you guys for watching. I would love to say that I'll post more. Building a personal brand isn't a priority for me right now. It's something I try to spend some time doing from time to time. These monthly recaps are a good spot for me to reflect and really analyze, and make sure I'm not having to learn the same lesson twice. But if I post, I post. If not, you might not see me until my March recap video. But I appreciate you guys for watching, and that's all I got. So let's go. Let's see if we can hit another record month.